Okay, so welcome to my Algebra 2 course. This is a flipped classroom, and I think it's important for you to understand exactly how this sort of thing works so that you can be as successful as you possibly can. So the learning objectives for this short video is to understand how do you access content, to understand the flipped workflow, and to understand how to be successful within a relatively new classroom dynamic. Okay, so there are things that you should have done before you got here. I'm assuming you've done them or you shouldn't be watching this video, but you should have already logged into the Moodle site. You can use the enrollment key integer in order to create your account. You needed to create a TED-Ed account in a separate window and log into it. So if you haven't created the TED-Ed account, go ahead and pause this video, go to TED-Ed, create an account, and go ahead and log in. It's essential that you log in to TED-Ed whenever you're there, because I'm going to be using the TED-Ed logs to verify whether or not you have participated in watching the lectures. If you don't log in, it won't record your name. So that's really essential for you. This is a lot. Not logging into TED-Ed would be like turning in homework without putting your name on it. So you wouldn't want to do that, and you don't want to do that in this case either. Then you're going to want to come back to the Moodle window and click on the pre-semester activity link. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through that. Now I'm making the pre-semester activity video right now, so that link won't be there. But let's take a look at what this would look like. So if I'm here on the LaSalle website and I want to go to TED-Ed. And when I get here, if I haven't got an account, I want to register. I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. Now I've got my TED-Ed account connected to my Facebook, but you could also do it through your email with a password. I'm going to say log into Facebook. And you can see now it's got my name up here, and as I work on watching videos or adding flips here, then it's going to know who's doing the work. Now I'm going to want to go also to the Moodle site, so in a new tab, I'm going to go to the LaSalle Moodle site, so that's lasallehsonline.org. If you're not familiar with that, I'm sure most of you are. I'm going to go ahead and log in. I'm going to go into the mathematics section, and I'm going to find Algebra 2 Rynerson. That's for this course. Now, I do allow guests, so you should be able to go in without the enrollment key, but it's better for you if you have the enrollment key in order to access all the materials. So when you pop in, you're going to see this is the section for Chapter 5. You can see I've got homework as an Excel file, and there are these two links for Section 5.1 and 5.2 lesson. Now if I click on the Section 5.1 lesson, see, it's going to take me back to TED-Ed. I'm still logged in. I'm going to go ahead and watch the video. So I can watch the video at this point by hitting play. I can make it full screen if I like. Perfect. In Chapter 5, we're going to be working with rational functions, and we're going to start off with when I'm done inverse and joint variation. Watching the video. You've already done direct variation. I've gone ahead and made this full screen. I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to go into the think area. Okay, and in the think area there are questions. So the questions are related to the lesson, and it gives me a sense of how much you understood, and it also is essential that you answer these questions in order for TED-Ed to show me whether or not you have watched the video. Okay, so you must be logged in, you must watch the video, and then you must answer the question. So you can see in this particular section I've written four really short questions. Very easy for you to answer if you've watched the video. Okay, now it's important to think about the fact that when you're working on this work, what is it exactly we're doing? So the class structure isn't any different than a typical classroom. So typically in class you're going to start with a teacher demonstration. That would be done in class, and that's what would happen in a typical class. In a flipped classroom, you're doing this at home by logging into TED-Ed. Then there's guided practice. Typically that would be done in class. This is something that often doesn't happen because you run out of time in the class. When you're trying to do a lecture and give a quiz and have guided practice in class, then often what sort of goes out the window is guided practice. So one of the reasons for flipping the classroom is to try to make sure that this rather important step in the structure happens. Where does it happen? It happens at home. So what does that look like? Within the TED-Ed video, you'll see as you go through that there are times when I pause the video and tell you to go ahead and work on specific problems. So this would be an example. It'll say, in this case it says from section 5.1, you should do problems 7, 8, and 9. So in the middle of the lecture, after I've demonstrated the skills necessary to do 7, 8, and 9, you stop the video, do the problems, and then come back to the video and resume to something new. So what's happening here is you're getting the demonstration and then immediately being asked to practice. That's the best way that guided practice works. That also typically doesn't happen in class because you don't pause in the middle of the lecture in order to do the practice. Instead, you do it all at the end. So independent practice, that's going to happen typically in a regular classroom. That would happen at home. In this case, it's going to happen in class. When you come into class, you will have already watched the lecture, done some practice, probably generated some questions. So in class, we're going to start with what are your questions? We're going to then go on to in-class practice, where you're going to be able to work with a partner. You have access to me to help you if you don't understand how to do the work, so that as you work on these more difficult tasks in class, there is a lot of support for you in terms of your peers and also the instructor. And then the most difficult problems in the homework are application problems, which you might think of as word problems, and that's also going to happen in class. And the point of that is you're going to work on it with partners so that you can go ahead and share information and talk about strategizing to how to solve the problem. You can ask me questions, and what this does is it maximizes my ability to provide you with one-on-one assistance in class. As I mentioned before, typically when the lecture happens in class, between lecture and quiz and trying to get guided practice, there's essentially no time for the teacher to do anything other than answer some basic questions. When we work on this in the flipped class model, I have lots of time in class to go ahead and devote to answering your specific questions and working with you individually to make sure that you develop the skills that are necessary. So what are the resources that are available to you? So in Moodle there are lectures, there's the homework. As I finish up the semester schedule, I'll be posting a schedule so you know exactly what happens on what days. And then as it makes sense, I post little extra pieces of information. So if from last semester I posted an Excel file that would help you do synthetic division more quickly and easily. So when those sorts of things come up, or if there are topics outside of class, like maybe we have a lot of fraction operations in this semester, so I may post a video. In fact, I have posted videos that give support in terms of creating common denominators, adding and subtracting fractions, multiplying and dividing fractions, things that are assumed you would have already known by now. Okay, so how do I be successful in what is essentially a slightly different educational model? You'll notice, as I mentioned before, the tasks that we're doing, they're the same. What's changed is where do they occur? So how do I then adapt to this and be successful? First, when you're watching the lectures at home, it's still a lecture. Okay, even though it's in a video format, it is not there for you to just sit and passively watch. You need to take notes. If we go back to the Moodle page, you'll notice that I have the lecture slides for all of the different lectures. So when you click on that link, you have the slides. If you're working with an iPad or another device, you can use a notation piece of software to take notes on these slides. You can print these slides and you can use them as a note-taking guide. Equally, I have created a Cornell Notes template that you could download and use, or you can take notes in whatever method you would like. Okay, but what is most essential is that you are attending class and attending the lecture part of the class at home, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take notes. You should still do all of the things that you do as a good student in class. You need to pay close attention, you need to take notes, and you should jot down your questions so that when you come to class you can ask them. This is the one thing that you can't do, and that is both a good and a bad thing, is you can't interrupt the lecture in order to ask questions. So you have to wait for clarification until you come to class, or you can use a question module in Moodle to pose questions to me and I will get back to you. When you're in the process, I already showed you that there are practice problems that you are instructed to do in the middle of the lecture. Do the practice problems. The point of practicing is for you to practice the skills immediately after I have demonstrated how. So I show you how to do it, you do the practice problems, and if you don't know how to do that, and you're having trouble at that point, you should re-watch the section of the lecture that dealt with those problems so that you can understand. Okay? The nice part about having your lecture on video is you can watch it as often as you want. You can pause it. If I'm going too fast for you to take notes, you can pause it, catch up. You can go back through a section if you didn't quite understand. So there are a lot of advantages to this methodology, including the fact that as you progress through the course, the lectures are all still there, as opposed to lecturing in class where it's a moment in time, it happens, and then it's gone. Okay, when you come to class, you should have jotted down questions, things you did not understand from the lecture. When we start the class, I will address your questions so that you get the chance to answer them. Asking questions is a great thing. So this methodology is not created to avoid answering your questions. It's created so that when you do ask your questions, you ask them in a more informed way, with more experience, having already completed the lecture and done some practice. Often I think you'll find that continuing through the lecture and doing the practice problems and maybe revisiting things you don't understand will clear up your misunderstandings anyway. But when you do have questions and you still have things that you don't understand, come to class ready to ask them. When you're in class, you need to use your time in class wisely. I'm allowing you to work in partners because it's better for you to share information with another student. Right? You will be able to accomplish far more with two brains than you will with one. And the idea is that you both talk about it, you share your ideas, and that really enhances the learning process. You can derail this by simply talking and screwing off in class, and I probably can't stop you. I'm going to try very hard to keep you on task, but at the end of the day, the responsibility for your education is really yours. So all of these things, are you paying attention when you take the lecture? Are you taking notes? Are you diligently working in class to complete the assignments in class? Because all of this is geared to helping you develop an understanding of the material, right? How honestly and how much effort you put into that is one aspect of this that I cannot really change. I can try to motivate you, I can try to encourage you, I can try to demand that you do it, but at the end of the day, the responsibility lies with you to participate in this class with an honest work ethic. And the other thing you need to do is, when you enrolled in Moodle, you did it with an email. When I communicate to you, I will be communicating through Moodle. When I want to talk to the whole class and change the schedule or announce that I'm postponing a test or something like that, it's going to go out through the Moodle email. If you never check it, you're not going to be informed. So as I post new things, I send out a Moodle email. If I change the schedule, I send out a Moodle email. So you're going to need to pay attention to your Moodle email and check it regularly in order to make sure that you keep up with this class. Okay, equally, if you ask questions through a question module in Moodle, it's going to send out an email to everybody in the class. So remember that the question modules in Moodle are not for personal issues. They're for questions about the content. I encourage you to use them because everybody then will see your question and my response, and it will probably help everyone. If you didn't understand something, the likelihood is that a bunch of people didn't understand it, and so when I clarify it for you, we may be helping everybody in the class do better. And really, this is a learning community. How I really want all of you to help each other learn the material. That's what's going to make this class the most dynamic and the best class it can be. Okay, how does this go about? In a typical class, you're going to come in, I'm going to answer your questions, you're going to take a quiz, and then you're going to work on homework from a new section. So you're going to watch videos before our next class. When you come into class, I'm going to answer your questions, and then you're going to work on homework from that class because it's the first section in the chapter. When you come to the following class, you will have watched videos. I will answer your questions about the videos, and then you will take a quiz on the previous sections, the one you did the homework for in the previous class. So it gives you one more chance to ask questions, and then you'll take the quiz. So quizzes are done independently. When I do my tests, they have 3 parts. Okay, so these are the tests. Part A is going to be done with a partner or in a group. So typically I like groups of 2, but sometimes it makes sense to put together a group of 3. Okay, this is going to be application-based work. There's going to be word problems predominantly. That's what it's going to be. There will be a vocabulary that you're going to do independently. And then there will be the part B. So you'll see in the schedule there's test part A, test part B. Normally I will do vocabulary and test part B together, and this will also be independent. So you're going to be doing some work in a group. You're going to be doing some work by yourself. Typically my quizzes are multiple choice. Part A is going to be group work that's going to be word problems typically. Then you're going to have vocabulary, which is going to be matching. And then part B is going to be what is called in education constructed answer, but it's the type of test you're used to. I give you a problem, you work out the problem. In all cases, you should be showing all of your work. Even in a multiple choice problem, you should show your work. If you have the wrong answer, but you have mostly the right work and maybe an inaccurate interpretation of the work, you're going to get a lot more partial credit. If all you do is you mark down in a multiple choice situation, if all you do is you mark down your answer and it's wrong, then it's wrong and I have nothing else to grade. If there's a bunch of work there where I can see, what were you thinking? What were the mental processes you were going about? Or I can say, oh look, everything was perfect except they made this one little tiny mistake. Well, you're going to get a lot more credit by showing the work than you will if there's just nothing there but an answer. Okay, so it is in your best interest always to try to show me as much work as possible. So keep that in mind as you're doing the work. Now, on all of these assessments, this is unique to my class, so you should pay attention to this. Typically, what happens around assessments is it measures how you performed on a certain topic at a specific point in time in the course. I'm looking to develop mastery, and I have the whole semester to do it. So if you don't like the grade you got on a quiz or a test section, you can retake it. And I will let you retake it all the way up until a cutoff point at the end of the semester. So what should you do if you want to retake something? You've taken an assessment, you get a grade you're unhappy with. What should you do? You should go back to the material and restudy it. Examine the test or the quiz and figure out, why did you get it wrong? What did you not understand? When you restudy, you can go to the textbook. You can rewatch the videos. You can schedule personal tutoring time with me. You can ask me questions in class. But the point is, there's no point in going back and retaking the assessment if you haven't done something to prepare for it. So we'll want you to establish for me what you have done. So I'll want you to sort of create a log and a petition, if you will, of what you've done to restudy and why I should allow you to retake it. Yes, I will let you retake it, but I'm not going to let you randomly retake it because you've just decided I'm going to do it again. Okay, you should also get involved with some of the homework type work and do some practice work. After you've restudied, double check yourself and see, did I really improve my understanding of the situation? Then you're going to need to tell me what you've done, right? What did you do to prepare, and when do you want to take it? You have to schedule it with me, and then I'll have you retake it. Now, don't procrastinate. I did this last semester, and so if you were in my class last semester, there's some changes. First off, you have to tell me what you have done to prepare for the retake. You need to communicate that to me. Okay? And what happened is everybody waited to the end of the semester, and so there was this big retaking session at the end of the semester. Don't procrastinate. You really should get re-involved with the material as soon as possible. I'm not trying to micromanage your life, so I'm not going to set, at this point in time, I'm not going to set a time frame for this, but you really should be retaking something. If it's a quiz, you should try to retake it before the test. That's what's best going to prepare you for the test. If it's a test, you should probably retake it before you get to the next test, because you should be studying for it, and you don't want the study for this to interfere with studying for the next test. Okay, so that's a quick overview on my class. If you have questions about this, you can email me directly. You can post in the question forum for Chapter 5, or we can wait until next class and ask me personally. Look forward to seeing you in class.